Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Assalamu alaikum class. I'm your English teacher Zia Hamid. I hope that you're doing well. You are ready for today's video lessons. Welcome to English grade 8. Today we are going to start our unit number 6. The title is The Most Beautiful Flower. And the theme that we explored in this lesson is of ethics and values. And our sub-theme for this main lesson, particularly for this chapter, is empathy. I hope that you have read this lesson. If not, then you must read it, because this is a poem that talks about that how we should have feelings for others and help others have good moral and ethical values so that we can do much more and good for other people. Now, this is very important for you as a person to develop your character, so you must read this lesson carefully and attentively. And now this is an introductory lecture where I will introduce you with all the different SLOs that we are going to cover in the forthcoming lectures. So let's begin. First, let us talk about the overview of the theme that is included and incorporated in this whole lesson. So if you have read the poem, The Most Beautiful Flower, which is the title of the main of the unit and the main lesson as well, it tells a story about a kind act, an act of kindness. It shows how a simple gesture can make a very big difference in someone's day. The poem teaches us about being caring and understanding, like the person who gave the flower to the tired boy. This is the act of kindness that was done in the poem. It reminds us that even small acts of kindness, of goodness, can have a big impact or result on others. So this talks about empathy, kindness, having good moral and ethical values. This poem is really interesting. I hope that you can read it by yourself and memorize it in your heart. Now, let's talk about our first lecture that we are going to do in the first lecture. This is an introduction, as I always told you. So the lecture 1 is divided into different parts. In lecture 1A, we are going to cover these two SLOs, and they are about conjunctions. Number 1 is examine and interpret the use of conjunctions. And the competency here is grammar. We are talking about parts of speech, and conjunction is, dear learners, a very important part of speech, and we are going to see them in our speech and also in our writing. It is applicable in both these formats, so you better learn it. I'll introduce you with conjunctions and how it is used in speech and writing. Next one is that we recognize and use subordinating conjunctions, which is a type of conjunction to connect independent clauses to independent clauses. For example, he could not attend the meeting because he was sick. These are two independent clauses, but we used a conjunction. Can you spot it? Yes, here, because is our conjunction. So you can see that conjunctions have different types. There is subordinating conjunction, coordinating conjunction, and also correlative conjunction, which we will talk about in the next lesson. Now, for this purpose, we will learn it with examples followed by exemplary sentences and different kinds of activities. So be prepared for this one and start revising your parts of speech for this lesson and learn about conjunctions before you attend the lecture. Next one, we have our lecture number 1B. Here we have the SLO about conjunctions. Recognize and use correlative conjunctions, including pairs such as both or and, either or, neither, nor, not, but, and, not only, but also. So these are pair of words. You can see these are two words and they are used in the same sentence, in one sentence, but they are correlative. They are related to each other. That's why we call them correlative conjunctions. We are going to learn them and see that how they can function in our sentences. Next, we have our lecture number 2, where we will be talking about, again, we are going to talk about grammar, and here we are going to talk about adverbs, which is also a part of speech. Use adverbs, adverb phrases, and recognize adverb clauses as needed in their speech and writing. So we are going to see what are adverbs, basically with examples, adverb phrases, phrases that contain adverbs, and adverb clauses. It means clauses also have adverbs as needed. So in our speech and in our writing, identify and use degrees of comparison of adverbs. So here we will talk about adverbs. I hope that you have a little bit knowledge about what is an adverb and how it is used in our sentences. Next, we have our lecture number 3A. Again, it is lecture 3 is divided into different parts. Number A is understand and utilize similes, metaphors, personification, imagery, scheme, alliteration, hyperbole, oxymoron, mood, meter, rhyme. All these different kinds of devices and figurative language, including figures of speech. We will talk about them in lecture number 3A. Similes, metaphors, personification, imagery. I hope that you are aware of these figures of speech. We will also talk about scheme, alliteration, hyperbole, oxymoron. All these are also poetic and literary devices. We'll talk about mood, meter of a poem, what is a rhyme in a poem, and also assonance and consonance, the repetition of vowels and consonants in our verses. Use these devices in writing tasks also. So figurative language, including figures of speech and also the different literary poetic devices, we are going to learn them and we are going to see them, and followed by some examples. For lecture number 3B, this is about using your dictionary or thesaurus to choose appropriate word definition according to the context. We will use these resource materials to choose the definition which is more appropriate according to our context and our need. Next one, we have lecture number 4A, where we determine the meaning of words and phrases as they are used in a text, including figurative and connotative meanings. These are different types of meanings. Analyze the impact of rhymes and other repetition of sounds, for example, alliteration on a specific verse or stanza of a poem or section of a story or drama. Now, we will see that how the rhyme scheme is impacting all these different aspects of our verses in a poem. So, different kinds of meanings and also the impact of rhyme scheme. These will be our topics for this lecture. And next one, we have our lecture number 4B, where we evaluate the literary techniques. Literary means it is related to any text, any literature. For example, music or sound, imagery or visual effects, type of vocabulary and language structure used in written and visual text to achieve a variety of purposes. So we will see that how the musicality and the sounds or the imagery, the words that produce image in the mind of the readers, or producing visual effects just by our words, the type of vocabulary, language structure, all these will be covered in this video lesson, and followed by the next lecture, which is lecture number 4C, where we will demonstrate understanding of familiar sentence patterns using knowledge of syllables. I hope that you're familiar with what a syllable is. Next, mark the multisyllabic words, words having more than one syllables in sentences, to decode it, pronounce correctly, and also read unfamiliar sentence patterns fluently with proper stress, expression, and joy. So this is about breaking down the words into different syllables and saying them according to the rules and conventions. Next one, our lecture number 5. This will also be divided into different parts. For lecture number 5A, we will develop the ability to pose rhetorical questions for a range of audiences. Can you guess the competency? Yes, this is about oral communication. The oral communication, the competency, and here we will talk about having rhetorical ability when we are speaking for any kind of audience which we have in front of us. So this is related to your speaking competency, your oral communication. So you have to brace yourselves for this lesson and be very active for this one. You don't want to miss it because this is really important for you as a speaker. And now, lastly, we have a writing competency SLO. These are actually two SLOs. First, we will see I before E except after C rule with exceptions. These are some rules of different letters. And next one, we will write a poem narrating an event. We will see how we can do it, how we can write a narrative poem. We will see some poems and we will try to write them down. Thank you for listening to this introductory lecture. I hope that now you're ready and charged up for unit number 6 of grade 8. I'll see you on the other side. Meet you with lecture number 1A. Take care of yourselves. Allah Hafiz.